stomboye, menene genea, barado stomboye, menene standaye, menene brombore, menene dombore, manana gandale, manano sombore, baradista pile, manano socore. Aha. Genjongoye, Arotoraba, La Reteye Sopreye, Randoreye, La Zorada, Ya Lebore Ziberaye, Dingele Babriato, Baradia Dobo, oh, the Bastobo, Nanamia Stopper, the Bostopo, the Bostopo, Yala Maya, Bocho Bordiente, Bolostipo Gulestepa Vieta. Now some will think you're crazy, and some will think you're mad, and some will get aggravated with you, but others will get glad.
Hi guys, this is Laura coming to you today from End Time Apostasy. I hope you guys are doing well. Now, the person that you just saw there was Rodney Howard Browne back in 1994 when I was 25 that would have been, or 25 and a half, I would have been at that particular time when this Toronto blessing started. A lot of people tend to think that this was with Randy Clark was the one that started it. Well, actually, it was this guy who calls himself the Holy Ghost bartender, okay, and you see people getting drunk and falling over and all kinds of things. The same things that you see now, except, unfortunately, it's worse now. It's worse now, and this guy is still a huckster. He's still doing the same old thing. Now, what I want to do is I want to bring you over to an article that Rodney Howard Browne said, and it's really very telling. Okay, so this is on Newsweek.com, and it says this: conservative pastor says his church will never close because of coronavirus. We're raising up revivalists, not pansies. Has anybody ever heard of a godly man use the word pansies? Because we know what that word is about, right? It's disrespectful. But anyway, it says this: a conservative evangelical pastor has told his followers he will not be closing his church amid the coronavirus outbreak because they are not, quote-unquote, pansies. Pastor Rodney Howard Browne, leader of the Florida-based Revival Ministries International, even went as far as telling his congregation to shake each other's hands while he was delivering his sermon at the River Tampa Bay Church on March 16. And this quote: "Well, I know they don't want us to do this, but just turn around and greet 2, 3 people. Tell them you love them. Jesus loves them," Howard Browne said, according to the website Right Wing Watch. "Listen, this has to be the safest place. If you cannot be saved in church, you in serious trouble." Authorities have repeatedly warned people against shaking hands and advise frequently washing your own hands and avoid touching your face and eyes. The Disease Control and Prevention has also recommended that all mass gathering events with 50 or more people be cancelled for 8 weeks in order to help prevent the spread of the virus. Speaking during the sermon, which was attended by a large crowd of people, Howard Browne said he had no plans to cancel his congregations. Quote, "We are not stopping anything," he said. "I've got news for you. This church will never close. The only time this church will close is when the rapture is taking place." So guys, I just wanted to show you that before I bring you over to the main event, okay? Okay, so here we go. Tampa megachurch pastor arrested after leading packed services despite safer at home orders. Now guys, I do believe that this is, this is a definite, viral thing that we have out there. Like I said before, I think there's a lot more behind this than meets the eye, but I do see this as being a virus that we need to be careful with, right? It's spreading. But anyway, so here it is, Tampa, Florida. The pastor of a Tampa megachurch is facing charges after refusing to close its doors, despite a safer-at-home order in effect in Hillsborough County, meant to stop the spread of COVID-19. The sheriff said up to 500 people were in attendance at Pastor Rodney's Howard Browne's Sunday service. Howard Browne, 58, turned himself in Monday afternoon after Sheriff Chad Cronster and I hope I said that right, and State Attorney Andrew Warren on Monday announced an arrest warrant had been issued for charges of unlawful assembly and violating public health emergency rules of isolation and quarantine. Howard Browne was released 40 minutes later after posting a $500 bond. Okay, the River of Tampa Bay Church held 2 services Sunday, Cronster said, and even offered bus transportation for those services. The church's live stream showed a packed crowd cheering and applauding. So, Friday, Sheriff Cronster said deputies had tried to speak to Howard Browne on at least 2 separate occasions about the dangerous environment the church was creating. He said HCSO command staff went to the East Tampa Church, but they were advised by church leaders and legal staff that Howard Browne was refusing to see them, and he also refusing to cancel the Sunday services. Now, I think it's important that we listen to this man who is the sheriff here. I think there's a video. The video is here. So let's just listen to what he has to say, because I think it's important. Okay, so what you're about to hear is the sheriff talking, and I guarantee you what you're about to hear is very honorable, kind, respectful, and nice. Okay, and I will be doing a video after this to talk about something else, but let's just play this anyway.
Your willingness to meet outside in the heat while the Sheriff's Office continues to do our part to stop the spread of COVID-19. Joining me today is our State Attorney, Mr. Andrew Warren, who worked expeditiously with us on this case. Thank you, Mr. State Attorney. And a religious leader from our community who's committed to public safety and the welfare of his congregation, Bishop Thomas Scott. Bishop Scott, thanks for being here today with us. We're living in unprecedented times right now. So many people have lost their jobs, are under stress, and looking for some sense of calm and normalcy. I believe there's nothing more important than faith during a time like this. And as a sheriff's office, we would never impede someone's ability to lean on their religious beliefs as a means of comfort. But practicing those beliefs has to be done safely. Last night I made a decision to seek an arrest warrant for the pastor of a local church who intentionally and repeatedly chose to disregard the orders set in place by our president, our governor, the CDC, and the Hillsborough County Emergency Policy Group. His reckless disregard for human life put hundreds of people in his congregation at risk, and thousands of residents who may interact with them this week in danger. Since last Friday, March 27th, the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office has been in contact with leaders at the River of Tampa Bay Church. We received an anonymous tip that Pastor Dr. Ronald Howard Browne refused request to temporarily stop holding large gatherings at his church. And instead, he was encouraging his large congregation to meet at his church. Pastor Howard Browne's actions were a direct violation of Executive Order 20-5, which went into effect on March 20th, limiting gatherings, including faith-based gatherings, to less than 10 people. He was also violating a safer-at-home order, which went into effect on March 27th, advising Hillsborough County residents to remain in their homes as much as possible to create greater social distancing and reduce the spread of COVID-19. On Friday, and again on Sunday, Sheriff's Office personnel and legal staff spoke with attorneys representing the church in an attempt to educate them on the dangerous environment they are creating for their members, our community, and explain why they were in violation of these orders. Additionally, members of our command staff personally went to the church to attempt to speak with Pastor Howard Browne, who did not make himself available, but was advised by church leaders and his legal staff that they were once again refusing to cancel the Sunday evening church service. The River at Tampa Bay Church has an advantage over most places of worship, as they have access to technology, allowing them to live stream their services over the internet and broadcast television for more than their 4,000 members to watch from the safety of their own homes. Instead, they encouraged people to come and gather at church, even provided bus transportation for the services. This pastor held not one, but two large services on Sunday, one at 9:30 a.m. and another at 7 p.m. Because of the reckless disregard of public safety, and after repeated requests and warnings, I worked with our state attorney, Andrew Warren, to obtain a warrant for unlawful assembly and violation of public health emergency rules, both which are second-degree misdemeanors. Again, our goal here is not to stop anyone from worshiping, but the safety and well-being of our community must always come first. At this time, I invite our state attorney, Andrew Warren, to make a few comments. Mr. Attorney?
Good afternoon. First, let me thank Sheriff Chronister and his executive team for handling this situation promptly and appropriately. Public safety is always our number one priority, and make no mistake, this issue is about the health and safety of our community. Putting your parishioners at risk in a time of an emergency like this is not only reckless, but it's illegal. If you're violating the safer-at-home order, law enforcement is going to direct you to stop. And the order is clear that it's intended to promote compliance, not punish non-compliance. But where people are refusing to obey law enforcement in this regard, you risk being arrested and prosecuted. I'd like to note that I think it's unfortunate that the pastor here is hiding behind the First Amendment. One, it's absolutely clear that emergency orders like this are constitutional and valid. Second of all, leaders from our faith-based community across this country have embraced the importance of social distancing. They've encouraged their congregations to practice social distancing for their own health and to slow the spread of COVID-19. Lastly, I'd remind the good pastor of Mark 12:31, which says there's no more important commandment than to love thy neighbor as thyself. Loving your neighbors is protecting them, not jeopardizing their health by exposing them to this deadly virus. I want to thank the sheriff again and his team for how quickly they worked to bring an appropriate resolution to this situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. At this time, I'd like to invite Bishop Thomas Scott to make a few comments. Bishop Scott.
Thank you, Sheriff Chronister, and I would like to also thank you for your support and the importance of public safety in Hillsborough County. I want to say personally that we know we have a great sheriff here in Hillsborough County who has been doing a great job, an outstanding job for this community and provide public safety. Let me just say that we need to understand how important this issue is to us. COVID-19 and social distancing is very important. It's important also for the religious community to govern themselves according to the laws of the land. The Bible instructs us to obey the laws of the land.
Amen.
Secondly, Jesus says, if you're compelled to go 1 mile, go 2. If you're compelled to take off your overcoat, give them your top coat. Which means what he's saying there is go the extra mile, the distance, to make sure that you're within compliance. And so today, what we have done at our church, at the 34th Street Church, is that we have ceased services on Sunday morning, on Wednesday night, and we do streaming online and Facebook Live on Sunday mornings at 10 o'clock, and as well on Wednesday nights. And so we value the importance of the laws of the land, and we value the importance of social distancing, and more important, protecting our parishioners. Make sure that they are not in harm's way or that they spread this deadly disease throughout the community. So, Sheriff, thank you again for your support, and thank you for what you're doing in this community.
Thank you, Bishop Scott. I also thank you for not only what you do for our faith-based community, but the entire community as a whole. We're fortunate to have you. Thank you. At this time, any of the three of us will be available for questions.
I'm sorry.
You have to speak loud since we're all so separated.
All right.
Mr.
So
Jordan.
I went out to the church earlier today, and somebody came up to us and picked us off the property. Before they did that, they told us that the church has put in place some of the mechanisms to prevent the spread, and no one's talking about that anymore, or what they're doing. They haven't talked about what those measures are, but they said that this was done with that in mind. Your response?
There's no exemption in our Safer at Home order to allow for any type of devices that one may believe will sanitize the air enough to not spread this virus, this deadly virus. So he, his legal staff, and church leaders were explained this in great detail by not only the Sheriff's Office legal staff, but county attorneys as well. They chose to ignore that. And what you're seeing today is a result of that refusal to comply with the Safer at Home order.
Sheriff, is he currently in custody, or the deputies in the process of serving this arrest warrant? Where is he right now?
Great question. I guess I should start repeating the question, just since a lot of people can't hear the question. The question is if he is in custody yet. We are working on that. We are currently negotiating with him and his attorney to turn himself in. We believe he lives in Hernando County. We believe he's in the process of turning himself into the Hernando County Sheriff's Office, along with our deputies who are up there now. I was looking for a sign here to see if he was under arrest yet. He is supposed to any minute now turn himself in.
With that said, I've heard in the last 24 hours from former members of this church that have talked about the weaponry that this man owns. Is there any concern for you and fellow law enforcement to go in there based on some of the rhetoric that we've heard from this pastor in the past?
Yeah, the question is there any concern based on the rhetoric that's been made public about his arsenal of weaponry that he holds? Not only is it the weaponry that he has, he also has a vast security force that he has deployed. So, hence why we didn't serve the warrant. The state attorney did a phenomenal job of getting us the warrant that we needed for officer safety reasons. It's the reason why we didn't storm the church and arrest him in front of his 500 parishioners who were gathered yesterday morning or evening. We wanted to be smart about this as well for officer safety, from an officer safety perspective. So, hence why we're allowing him the opportunity to turn himself in. If he doesn't, then we're going to be forced to be police officers and go get him. And at that point, law enforcement's highly trained and will handle it appropriately.
Are you aware of some of the rhetoric he's put out just about this virus in general? How much research have deputies done in the last few days? And he's really been putting out a message that this is no worse than the flu, things like that. Has that been part of the investigation as what he's been preaching to his community?
Yeah, correct. The question is about the rhetoric also that he's been putting out about the COVID-19 virus is made up. It's a hoax, and that it's no more serious than the flu. I think you can look at the quick spread of this virus, how deadly it is. and understand the importance of why these precautionary measures, these aggressive precautionary measures, needed to be taken by the emergency policy group to protect the safety and reduce the spread of this virus.
He retweeted me just now when I was talking about the arrest warrant. And in his previous tweets, he retweeted someone else and he said, okay, now go after Walmart and Lowe's and Home Depot. Those are places, devil's advocate, if I may play that, where people gather in large groups as well. Can you talk about the distinction between those two, the churches?
Yeah. The question is, you just received a tweet from him saying that he's an essential business, and that's just not the case. And again, our legal staff explained that to him. Our command staff, our executive staff, our chief deputy went to meet face to face. It was that important to us to try to emphasize the education phase of this safer at home order. We did everything we could to explain that there's a difference between gathering for a place of worship and getting those essential services and needs that we warrant each and every day.
Sheriff, he didn't act alone yesterday. There were it appeared to be hundreds of people in that church. Are you prepared to do something if they decide to congregate without him? Have you talked with elders, or what's the process next step, even if he does turn himself in, with respect to that church continuing?
Yeah, the question is, what do we do next week when 500 people gather at the church? We're hoping that this serves as a deterrent. Shame on this pastor, their legal staff, and the leaders of this church for forcing us to do our job. That's not what we wanted to do during a declared state of emergency. We are hopeful that this will be a wake-up call for him, his legal staff, and his entire leadership at the church. We're also hoping that the congregation realizes the importance of reducing the spread of this virus and stays at home and doesn't get in a bus filled with a lot of people to go to service.
And how about the parishioners themselves? How about the parishioners themselves and how responsible they are for their own safety?
Well, again, I hold the pastor responsible. I think as the shepherd, the flock will follow them. They have a lot of faith. When you look beside me now that Pastor Witten has arrived and Bishop Scott, they do such a phenomenal job with our faith-based community in these great dire times of need. It's a shame that someone has taken advantage of this. For whatever reason, I just don't understand it. The only reason I can see is it's a reckless reason to put your parishioners in jeopardy.
Any other questions? Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, and all of us will be available afterwards if you need an interview.
So the plan is to hopefully have them both today for you. Is that the hope today?
Well, the plan is if he gets arrested in Hernando County, he'll go through the bonding process at the Hernando County Jail. If he turns himself into the Hillsborough County Jail, then he'll go through the judicial process here. Regardless, he'll have to answer to his case here in Hillsborough County where the state attorney has filed the charges.
Sorry, repeat the two charges again.
Unlawful assembly. Hold on one second. I don't want to misstate this.
We can get it down, too.
Unlawful assembly in violation of public health emergency order.
And for Mr. Warren, is this a bondable offense? Can he set a bond and walk out if he turns himself in today?
And so the question is whether this is a bondable offense. In Hernando County, my understanding is that it is a bondable offense, so he would be able to post bond and be released until he has to come before a judge in Hillsborough County to start the process here.
If people from this gathering get sick, will he be facing other charges?
Right now we're focused on making sure that we're doing everything we can, like the sheriff said, to promote compliance, hoping that the leaders of this church recognize the importance of protecting their parishioners and that hopefully no one got sick from the events of yesterday.
Before we dismiss for the afternoon, I would like to introduce Pastor Ken Witten from the Ottawa Baptist Church to make a few comments. Pastor Witten.
Thank you, Sheriff, and thank you all for being here and for all of our medical enforcement, law enforcement, and what you're doing. Let me just say this, first of all, as a pastor. And as a fellow pastor, I don't think any of us pastors are trying to question Rodney Howard Browne's motive or his heart. I know he believes in the gospel. I know he believes in a big God.
No, this is where this pastor doesn't understand that Rodney Howard Browne is a wolf. But what he's going to say is very fair, and I just want you to listen.
I know he believes that God can not only save, but God can heal. I don't think that's the issue. And I think we need to understand what the issue is. The issue here is not religious freedom, because churches are not the ones being singled out. Everybody is shut down right now. There is no basketball, there is no football, there is no hockey, there is no March Madness, there is no Masters. All of us are doing our part. This is not a religious freedom issue, nor is this a real faith issue. That if you believed in God and you believe that He heals, let me tell you something. I'm a pastor that believes God heals. I believe God heals instantaneously. I believe He can heal in time. God can heal by miracle, and God can heal by medicine. This is not a real faith issue of if you believe in God, then you believe He can heal. This is not a real faith issue. This is not a religious freedom issue. This is a responsible friend issue. That's what this is. And let me be quick to say this. In the Bible, quarantining is in the Bible. It's in the book of Leviticus. And it was practiced. It was practiced by people. And God has called us as believers in Jesus Christ to love our neighbor. In fact, it's the second commandment. Thou shalt love thy neighbor, how? As thyself. You can't fulfill that commandment and be a vector of infection to your neighbors whom you say that you love. And so I can't speak to Rodney Howard Browne's motive or his heart. Wouldn't even try to. I can just tell you here at Idlewild, and it isn't just Baptist, it's all denominations. It's even people that we may not see eye to eye with theologically. Can I tell you something? We can walk hand in hand together as community and as citizens together, and that's what we're trying to do. We're not doing this out of fear. We're not doing this out of panic. We are doing this out of love. Love for our neighbors. Love for the vulnerable. Love for the weak. Love for the elderly. I have pastor friends, many of them, who have COVID-19 people within their church. They believe in the gospel. They believe in healing. They believe God can. But they are not going to tempt the Lord thy God. They're not going to tempt Him to try to bring people together and do that. And so I think this is a responsible friend issue. And I would beg all the churches to follow the people in Romans 13 that says they are our ministers, actually. They're our authorities. And the medical and the professional and the social workers are trying to send a message to all of us. And I would ask all of my brothers and sisters in Christ that let's follow, let's adhere, let's curb, and let's flatten this curve. Thank you very much.
Any additional questions before we wrap it up?
Okay, guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this link for you at the when can't even talk straight at the end of at the bottom of the video in the comment section. And so I just wanted to show you how gracious these men are and that they genuinely care. Rodney Howard Browne does not care. He is a wolf in sheep's clothing. I think that pastor was quite gracious about Rodney, but he obviously doesn't really know what this man is all about. But guys, I wanted to share this with you, and I pray that this blesses you, and really to understand that just because these so-called healers, God is exposing all of this, because none of them, not one of them, has been able to go out and heal this coronavirus. I actually know of a friend now in my area. His name's Ryan Tuberty. He lives in Dunleary, and he has the coronavirus now. So, I just wanted to say that. So, guys, just be safe. As I say, be wise. And I'm sure you're fed up hearing people saying, you know what I'm saying? Put your hand into your wash your hands and all of that anyway. But listen, that's all I have for you at the moment. And I want to say this: may the Lord bless you, may the Lord keep you, and may the Lord let his light to shine upon you. And I'll talk to you super soon. Bye for now. Bye bye.